Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to the Correct Views. Sam, I beat Ganji here with the Media Speaks, doing some political commentary. Low def people here, high def people over there. Welcome aboard. Lots of news to get to today. I want to thank all of you for jumping on board and watching, sharing, subscribing. Otherwise, I'm just a guy talking into a camera without your support. Rand Paul, the Clintons think that they are above the law. Senator calls for independent investigation into email scandal by Paul Joseph Watson, PJ Dub. Senator Rand Paul has called for an independent investigation into Hillary Clinton's email scandal, charging that the Clintons think that they are above the law. Well, I do want to say one thing about this. She claimed, how many of you listened to it on Michael Savage's show? That was like the best commentary ever. She said she did it out of convenience. Well, I know what I'm talking about here. I have a degree in IMT. The server that she was supposed to use, the government server, was already made. She had her own server. Setting up your own server is not more convenient than using a server that's already there. Unless, of course, you're trying to hide something. And I've heard, I'm going to hear, I should say, people saying Rand Paul is being an opportunist here. He's not. Okay, first of all, why wouldn't he be? Second of all, he's not. You can't have the Secretary of State using what is potentially a vulnerable communication network to conduct official business at the status of government that she's at. That's first and foremost. He said, I don't think the Clintons are above the law, said Paul during an appearance on the Cully File, adding that Hillary's excuse that she was using a personal email account for convenience shouldn't trump national security. And as I've said, how is a personal account more convenient? It doesn't make any sense. One thing's for sure, Rand Paul gets in, we'll know for sure that he won't be breaking the law regarding emails. Later in the interview, Paul charged that Clinton operated out of arrogance and thinking that some of these laws applied to lower people and not to me. Hillary Clinton, nobody should be above the law of our land, he says. The former Secretary of State appeared at a hastily arranged, I would say so, press conference yesterday, during which she repeated claims that none of the roughly 30,000 emails that were deleted from her personal email account were related to official business. And of course, we all know that the Clintons have a track record of being so honest that, if you have a mushroom for a brain and a pumpkin for a head, you might actually trust her. Let's not forget this is the family that let our nuclear trade secrets out, and there's a real good chance that China will have a nice mushroom cloud dancing merrily above one of our cities thanks to these clowns. I don't see how she can do this email back and forth with the president, how she can email from Libya about worldwide events and expect that those conversations, none of them, were classified, said Rand Paul as he called for an independent investigation into the scandal. Let me also say here, even beyond that, while Libya was going on, we had one of our ambassadors killed. They had asked for help. We're supposed to believe that at no point at any time was any of this classified, and I'm sorry, that just doesn't hold water. Paul cited photographs of Hillary Clinton using her phone, it looks like a BlackBerry, during trips to Libya, images which don't correlate with Representative Trey Gowdy's finding that there were gaps of months and months and months in her email logs that Hillary had handed over from time to time. So in other words, we see her using her phone. Can't prove she was emailing. She could have been texting or looking up butch porn. I'm suspicious of the latter. But when you're missing a gap of a massive amount of time like she is during your stay as Secretary of State, when Stevens, our ambassador, was slaughtered, and Libya was pretty much turned over to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. This has happened under her watch, and we have no emails from that time, just coincidentally enough, something that might have said, help! It says, can we trust Hillary Clinton to produce all of her email when we couldn't trust her to obey the law that she had to use the State Department email? Very good question. The only way to get the truth is through an independent investigation, and I do believe that the public opinion can provoke that, said the senator, adding that the American public should not tolerate Clinton's secrecy. Asked whether directions given by Hillary to other State Department officials asking them to avoid using personal email accounts meant that Hillary thought that she was above the law, Paul agreed, as he should have, before also touching on the millions of dollars that her foundation has received from Middle Eastern countries known for oppressing women. Oh, but you have to understand, Hillary Clinton is such a wonderful feminist. She cares about the rights of people, especially females. Well, if that was the case, then she wouldn't be doing this. This is a couple that have been raising money from foreign countries that have despicable human rights and women's rights records, and they're somehow to be trusted. Oh, we're taking $20 million from Saudi Arabia, but it didn't affect any of our policy. It's unseemly, and I think the American people will be kind of sickened to see this level of, to me, it is a deception, said Paul. And you know what? Rand Paul is 100% right. He's definitely not his dad, but crying out loud, we can support him over Hillary, I would say. Does that mean that you shouldn't vote Libertarian if they end up running? Doing a hypothetical here. Here's the way I look at it. I want Justin Amish to run, and I want Judge Napolitano to run. And you know what? I haven't heard anything in any way, shape, manner, or form that would imply, even for a second, that either one of those two are going to run. Therefore, if that's to be the case, then you have to ask yourself, you don't want to vote for the lesser of two evils. We've all heard that argument. None of us want to vote for the lesser of two evils. Hillary is evil. Is Rand Paul evil? No. Right. A lot of things he says I don't agree with. I don't think he holds a candle to his father. However, he is not evil. So I would say if you're not going to vote for the Libertarian, then definitely voting for Rand is not the lesser of two evils. What am I going to do? It depends who the Libertarian candidate is. It depends who else runs. And I think it depends a lot on two things for me. First of all, what Rand does and says and promises between now and then. And second of all, how close is the race? If it looks like I can vote for Rand, who is not evil, and keep Hillary out of office, then I will forsake the Libertarian vote for the greater good. Because again, it is not the lesser of two evils. Otherwise, I'm probably going to vote Libertarian, as I have done through most of my voting life. Friends, Mikhail Phelan, Infowars.com. Police trash 90-year-old woman's home in search of non-existent drugs. Department defends the raid that produced zero evidence. And that's what's even more bizarre here, is that the boneheaded department defended it. It's insane. All right, friends. The woman who asked to remain anonymous detailed to CBS Miami the moment that Riviera Beach police threw a flash grenade into her home. She's 90. I don't know how the cops got in here, the woman said. The noise woke me up when something said boom, like a bomb or something. After breaking through her front door and shattering several windows, police began demanding access to an alleged drug supply. The woman probably peed herself. Cops standing over here talking about, where's the drugs? I said, what drugs? No drugs in here, she said. Police claim they obtained a warrant after witnessing criminal activity at the woman's home. After searching the residence with drug-sniffing dogs, police were unable to produce any evidence of criminal activity. Now, this is why so many of us on the side of common sense, not just liberty, are in favor for eliminating the drug war. Countries that allow drug use to be policed and kept in certain areas, but legal, but removed from society at large, have won the drug war because there's no war. People in nations that are doing things as we do are continuing. I mean, come on, it sounds like Nazi Germany here. Don't want to use Nazis? All right, fine. Rome. Don't want to use Rome? Fine. Stalinists, Maoists. You can imagine communist China doing this to a 90-year-old woman. This happened in Florida. How can we allow this to happen, people? How? The woman who has lived at the home for more than 25 years said that she never had been arrested once in her entire life in 90 years. I have never been arrested, never been to jail, she said. Police refuted the woman's claim that the raid was carried out on the wrong home and stated that even if she was unaware of drug dealing, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. So, without any proof that drug dealers came in and out of her house, it is okay because somebody may have bought a bag of weed on her front lawn and she's 90. What's she gonna do? Kick them out with jujitsu moves? This is asinine. Although claiming to be justified, the department and the city have promised to replace her door and windows by the end of the month. Oh, how very kind of them. No-knock raids, which should be illegal, have become commonplace among American law enforcement, just like Rome. And despite their often disastrous results to bystanders and even police, yeah, if somebody breaks into your house, you don't know if there's a cop. You have every right to blast their head off. And I'm sorry if that offends you. Don't break into someone's house then. In a somewhat similar situation, police defended a drug raid last year, putting a Georgia toddler in a coma after a flashbang grenade blew a hole in his chest. We covered that on here. And guys, one more story. This is brought to you by Mike McLaughlin. You go to facebook.com, look up the works of Mike McLaughlin. And how many of you read? Do any of you read? Have any readers out there at all? Great, because Mike McLaughlin, MacLaughlin, on Facebook, look him up. He will write some of the best stories, fiction and nonfiction, that you've ever read. Fortune.com, Walmart to increase hourly wages for thousands of store associates. This is a win. I do not, will not, and unless I am in dire need or something, and because I have such strange hours, I have to go there. Never go to Walmart at all. I will happily pay a little bit more somewhere else to not support this despicable China supporting low wage paying welfare causing company at all. Well, this is a huge, huge win for those of us that have called them out for being the pieces of human filth that they are. This is excellent news. Listen to this, guys. Are you ready? I'm having a drum roll. Walmart to increase hourly wages for thousands of store associates. You can't say it enough. The pay hike, which will cost $1 billion, which is nothing to them, comes as the world's largest retailer reports a strong holiday quarter. Walmart is celebrating a surprisingly strong U.S. holiday season by spreading the wealth of it. Oh, how very kind of them. I'm sure that's why. The world's largest retailer and the nation's largest private employer is spending $1 billion to increase hourly wages for its current U.S. store associates to more than $9 per hour or higher beginning in April. That increase is at least $1.75 above the federal mandated minimum wage. The decision will impact thousands of full-time and part-time U.S. employees. You know what? I'm no huge fan of Walmart, but they've listened. And if we don't thank and don't acknowledge when we've made a difference, then the next time we try to make a difference, it might not work. So hats off to Walmart. Never thought I'd say it. Does it mean I'm going there? Hey, no. But it will make me feel a lot better when I'm roped into it. Why? They would need to change a couple of other things first. But I will say this. I do have a wee tiny bit more respect for them, because they were paying such low wages that they were forcing people to go on welfare and food stamps and whatever they're called this week. And they were pretty much forcing it to happen. So It happened through our fighting that they've raised the price and given these people enough money to actually maybe help or somewhat live on. So very good to hear. I'm very glad I'm doing things like this show. Guys, and that brings us to the ISIS update, the huge ISIS update. And it is brought to you by Sticker Junkie. Do you want to get stickers made better than you ever imagined? That's right. Maybe you're in a band. Maybe you run a show like I do here. Maybe you do whatever. You need stickers. Go to stickerjunkie.com and tell David Lake, who this is dedicated to, and that you heard about him on The Correct Views. And the reason I'm telling you to do that is because David Lake did one of the most bombastic, teeth out, hands around the throat reporting on this that I've ever heard. And I want to carry up on it because apparently Allah has not bestowed dictionaries to ISIS, because having a picture of something does not mean that you worship it. I understand that Islam and Mohamid had some kind of problem against worshiping images. A historic image sitting in a place does not mean that you worship it. Nobody of any influence worships the Sphinx in Egypt. The trouble is, the idiots that are ISIS are too brain dead to understand the difference between worship and historical importance. I, for instance, am not Jewish. That doesn't mean that I have disrespect for the ancient places in Israel. This is where mankind came from. And you can argue that sacrificing children to Ra, which they did in Egypt, is evil. However, if you get rid of the proof of evil and the teaching that evil once existed, then man will repeat the evil more readily. Second of all, and this might not be very popular, but I don't care because it's true. Welcome to The Correct Views. The Bible is, I said is, as in it is, historically accurate. It is, am I talking about the whale? Yes. Not only was Jonah swallowed by a whale, but there were, they have found whales with people in them repeatedly. One of the places that are in the Bible that are historically accurate was in Nimrod, which is one of the places that have been destroyed by ISIS. So when people say that there is no proof for Christianity in the Bible and ancient Judaism, they are wrong. There is proof. One of the things that are going to be a problem for future generations is that I can prove to you, this is not my opinion, that's why it's a correct view, not a correct opinion. I can prove to you that the Bible is in fact historical, but I won't be able to prove it to you as readily by the time ISIS is done with what they're doing here. When Jabbar Jafar watched video of ISIS members with sledgehammers smashing artifacts as old as antiquity, the Iraqi-born cultural activist was outraged over the loss that he described as immeasurable. And again, you have to remember, prior to Islam, and if this offends you, I'm sorry, prior to Islam destroying itself the way it has, the ancient Arabs created algebra. I have great respect for that, since I had to take algebra not once, not twice, but 3 times to pass it when I was in college. I was on the dean's list unless I had an algebra class. If I had an algebra class, I was immediately off. How many of you know that the Arabs created algebra? It's only been this Islamic religion that clamps down on them like a terrorism of the soul that holds back these once great people. Well, listen to what Jafar says. It's a great man today. Jafar's anger at the destruction of Iraqi artifacts, relics, and statues by terrorists prompted him and his colleague, Iraqi archaeologist Abdullah al-Hamadani at Stony Brook University, to protest outside the White House Tuesday with 100 other cultural activists. It goes on that Jafar and Hamdani work with a group Saving Antiquities for Everyone that's called SAFE. It's an organization founded in 2003 in response to the looting of the Iraqi museum, during which thousands of artifacts and objects were taken. Between 3,000 to 5,000 are still missing. How in the hell could you not know if either 3,000 or 7,000 are missing? That's insane. They stole so much they don't even know what's gone, as I do my commentary here at 4:20 in the morning. I couldn't sleep that night, Jafar said. I would hope not, after watching the videotaped destruction by ISIS of artifacts in Mosul last month. These objects are as old as civilization. In other words, there is so much for us to learn and to keep from them that has nothing to do with worshiping. It's only a contrived, ridiculous interpretation of religion that would lead anybody to this. ISIS is destroying the heritage of mankind, said Jafar, who came from Iraq to the U.S. in 2008 and worked for the Iraqi Cultural Center in Northern Virginia. These pieces, more than 3,000 years old, that's even older than Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I think, are gone forever, and they can never be replaced. And again, the problem with ISIS is that nobody really has much interest in being Islamic, at least in the way that they interpret it. And most of us don't want to be Islamic at all. I'll be dead serious. We don't. And the reason is because, especially in terms of these ISIS people, you cannot prove that your religion is correct. I can prove that Ra, the ancient god, was not the sun god, because we know what the sun is. Rather than prove that Islam is correct, since they can't, because it's not, then what they do is destroy things that teach, edify, and prove existing religions to be correct. And they destroy priceless works of art in the process. The latest target for the Islamic State is Hatra, a 2,000-year-old city and archaeological site in northern Iraq that had parts demolished by ISIS militants last week, according to Kurdish officials. The terrorists damaged and looted the city one day after bulldozing the historic city of Nimrod, which again proves the location and timescale of Jonah that has been forever destroyed now. Hatra, located 68 miles southwest of the city of Mosul, was a large fortified city during the Parthian Empire and capital of the First Arab Kingdom. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, Hatra is said to have withstood invasions by the Romans in 116 and 198, some of the most evil people ever as well, thanks to its high, thick walls reinforced by towers. The ancient trading center spanned 4 miles in circumference and was supported by more than 160 towers. At its heart are a series of temples, with the Grand Temple in the center. It's a structure where its columns once rose 100 feet. Now they've been destroyed. Maybe what we need to do then is destroy anything that has anything to do with Mohammed. Maybe we should do that, right? No, that would be stupid, wouldn't it? Well, they're doing it to us, and no, I'm not saying it's right. That's also stupid. The destruction of Hatra marks a turning point in the appalling strategy of cultural cleansing underway in Iraq, says Irina Bakova, that is the Director General of UNESCO, and Abdulaziz Othman Al-Tawari, Director General of the Islamic Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Says the latest act of barbarism against Hatra, ISIS shows the contempt in which it holds to the history and the heritage of the Arab people. Again, the Arab people's greatest times were prior to the death grip that is Islam in many ways. I'm sorry, it's simply true. There are open-minded Muslims. Most of them are people just like me, and I have no problem with them. But it doesn't change the fact that the religion doesn't make any sense. And I know that that's not politically correct to say, but I mean, why was Mohammed allowing men to lick his torso if he was so against homosexuality? The religion is simply odd. And I'm not saying to ban it, but I'm saying to ban people forcing you to be in it. The Sunni, and again, the Shiites aren't as bad as the Shiites, by and large, don't bother anybody. The Sunnis are rather alarming. The Sunni extremist group, which can't figure out why people don't like it, currently controls about a third of Syria and Iraq and is bent on demolishing any symbols it says promotes idolatry and violates its interpretation of Islamic law. A video ISIS released last week shows militants smashing artifacts in the Mosul Museum, the majority of which came from Hatra. In January, the terror group also burned hundreds of books at the Mosul Library in Mosul. Yeah, so they must have been worshipping the books, right? On Friday, the group looted artifacts from Nimrod, which proves the story of Jonah, a 3,000-year-old city in Iraq, and bulldozed it in a move United Nations Secretary Kim Ban-Ki-moon declared as a war crime. That man's very existence in that organization has been nothing but a hurt to everybody with historical significance. Ancient Mesopotamia is really the cradle of civilization, where we saw the first farming, the first cities, the first writing. Jack Green, chief author at the Oriental Institute Museum at the University of Chicago, told FoxNews.com. There's a huge amount of knowledge, and that knowledge is being destroyed systematically, Green said. They're not only destroying images of things like artwork, but they're also looting artifacts and smuggling them away. And they're selling them. And it goes on here to say that if you buy them off of ISIS, you're supporting ISIS. Well, if you don't buy them off of ISIS, they're going to destroy them. So you're kind of in a mess there when you think about it. What would I like to see? I would like to see the CIA go ahead and infiltrate them by trying to buy these pieces and then finding out where they are. That's what I would like to see. You actually use the CIA for something useful that's not a tool. It would be used against the American people for a change. If we don't act now, there may be no past left to protect. With each artifact looted and sold onto the international market, only criminals, insurgents, and terrorists, the most unscrupulous collectors, profit. Well, again, that's the only way to save it, so it's very bad. That's what you get when the animals in ISIS insist that you put a burqa on your girlfriend to go to the store. Bastards. Infowars.com, Kuwaiti preacher, ISIS calls for demolition of Egypt's Sphinx and pyramids. I touched on that earlier. It's actually from RT. I found it on Infowars, but the story, let me correct myself, is RT. An Islamist, boneheaded, idiot, scum, piece of human filth should have to drink pig blood preacher from Kuwait has called, I might have added a little bit to that, to destroy Egypt's Sphinx and pyramids, as stating it is time for Muslims to erase the pharaoh's heritage. The alleged call comes as Islamic State jihadists ramp up their attacks against historic sites. What's interesting here is virtually nobody at all has any idea. Nobody teaches history anymore. There isn't anybody over there that was put through Islamic school that was really given much of an education on what the Sphinx even is. And yet, ISIS wants to walk around and pretend that people are worshiping it. Boneheadedness. I have no respect for ISIS, by the way. I spit on them. Tuh. Although the ancient monuments are not religious, but rather cultural and historic sites, they should still be destroyed by Muslims, putting an end to the worship of images. But who worships the Sphinx? He's already wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Keep talking, bonehead. Preacher Abraham Al-Kandari said, who I hope somebody feeds a pork sandwich to by shoving it down his throat with a tube of liquid Drano. According to Al-Watan Daily. Can I be more clear? I wouldn't want to be ambiguous. The fact that early Muslims, who were among Prophet Mohammed's followers, did not destroy the pharaoh's monuments upon entering the Egyptian soil does not mean that we shouldn't do it now, said Al-Kandari. Well, yeah, because he knows more than Mohammed, I guess, because now he thinks he's going to be the new Mohammed, and he's going to get his 17 virgins. I hope they all have VD. Another call for the destruction of Egypt's main symbols comes from Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who is an idiot and largely thought to be a propagandist, suggested the demolition of the historic monuments as a religious duty, Al-Alam News reported Sunday. In the extreme interpretations of Islam, no material objects should be idolized or worshipped. Yeah, well, I don't know of anybody idolizing or worshiping the Sphinx. What I do know is that al-Baghdadi should have to eat a pepperoni cheeseburger. It comes amid growing concerns over the safety of many other historic and archaeological monuments in the region, where militants continue to destroy ancient cities and artifacts. Because, Allah does not hand out dictionaries to teach them the difference between educational and religious. What do you expect? I mean, when you grow up in a Sharia school, you're doomed. Only last week, the Islamic State reportedly destroyed and looted the ancient Assyrian city of Dur-Sharukin in northern Iraq, demolished the remains of the city of Hatra, and bulldozed the city of Nimrod. We've talked about that. In 2012, an Egyptian cleric also issued a fatwa. Like anybody gives a rat's ass, you should wipe your ass with the fatwa, calling to rid the country of its pyramids and the Sphinx. The member of the radical Salafi movement said he wanted the antiques demolished as Prophet Mohamid destroyed the idols in Mecca and demanded Egyptians' tourism be admonished as prostitution and debauchery. You know what? I hope you fail miserably because you are too much of a swine-headed, pig-headed bastard to realize the difference between worship and historical significance. Idiot. Absolute idiot. One more story here on the ISIS news. I can't even be polite. Current Nemo Infowars. This one is Infowars. Corporate media ignores report of U.S. and Israeli operatives arrested aiding ISIS. This was very, very alarming. It's short, so I'm going to read most of it. This is disturbing. A story over the weekend stating American and Israeli military advisors were arrested in Iraq aiding ISIS was not reported by the establishment media. According to Iraq's Sarama news agency and the Iranian Tasnim news agency, the 4 foreign military advisors were captured, during a military operation in the Tal Abta Desert near the city of Mosul in Iraq's northern province in Nineveh, another historic area. 3 of the arrested men were dual U.S.-Israeli citizens, and a 4th was Persian. Do you understand this? The good guys in Iraq, the people that are fighting to protect these sorts of relics, have arrested a U.S., Israeli, and Persian men helping ISIS. On Thursday, Qasim al-Araji, the head of Badar organization in Iraq, told Parliament on Thursday he has evidence of U.S. is arming the Islamic Army, according to a report carried out by the Arabic language al-Masala. Now, you need to remember that Jews are not bad people. And if you say that Jews are bad people, you're just a stupid person. But Zionists can be rather alarming because they want the war to come, believing that the war is going to bring the Messiah, which, of course, is already here. But the point is, they don't believe that. So they want to bring it into reality by having this war happen. That would be the Zionist reason. Most Jews, of which I support, but I'm not, by the way, I'm Christian. Most Jews that I want nothing to do with Zionism because they know exactly what kind of butchery it's going to lead to. Always know that there is a difference between Judaism and Zionism. It says what is important is that the U.S. sends these weapons to only those who cooperate within the Pentagon, and this indicates that the U.S. plays a role in arming ISIS, the Iraqi intelligence agency claimed in December. Other airdrops to ISIS by the United States have gone unreported by the corporate media. Ultimately, it says whether one pallet drifted into ISIS hands by accident in a recent airdrop is a moot point, writes Tony Carlucci. Billions of cash, weapons, equipment, and vehicles have already been intentionally supplied by many groups that ISIS represents, and it was planned as early as 2007. ISIS is the purposeful creation of the United States in its pursuit of regional hegemony in the Middle East, and ISIS atrocities were predicted long before the first shots were fired in 2011 in the Syrian conflict and long before the Islamic State went mainstream. Now, let me be clear. There is a difference. Those of you that think that America created Al-Qaeda or ISIS for the sole purpose for them to come back and bite us in the ass, there's something wrong with your head. That's not what happened. what did happen, and I'm also not in favor of it, so you and I are still on the same side before you leave. I hate comments. They were funded to defeat Russia. They were funded to defeat Syria. We at no point wanted them to point their aggression towards us or our allies. Was it wise to fund them? No. If my neighbor says that his house has been broken into 3 times in the last 2 months and he wants a gun, and I give him a gun, and he kills the burglar, and then instead of giving the gun to me, he shoots me with it. I did not give him the gun with the sole intent that he used the gun on me and my family. I gave him the gun to get rid of neighborhood enemies. And what he did was use it on me because I used very poor judgment in who I gave weaponry to. None of that ever happened, by the way, but you get the point. America did not fund ISIS to bring on the destruction that we're seeing. America funded ISIS thinking that we could control them. And the last time a mistake like that was made, we ended up with Adolf Hitler in Germany. All right, guys, and that brings us to the dumb D of the day. Enough ISIS. I'll slit my wrist if I have to do any more. Mikhail Phelan. School threatens to suspend kids if parents skip meeting on Common Core testing. This is the stupidest story. Students at Detroit's Coleman A. Young Elementary School were threatened with a suspension after their parents failed to attend a mandatory meeting on an up-and-coming Common Core test. After the parents of multiple students missed the school's initial meetings, teachers scheduled a follow-up and sent out letters demanding that they appear or face the consequences. Derek and Latricia Smoke, who spoke with WDIV-TV after receiving the letter, said that they were shocked to see educators making such a threat. I was like, wow, this is a joke, Derek said. I really couldn't believe what I was reading. And again, we've talked about on here how kids have been kidnapped into their school and kidnapped and not allowed to leave over a Common Core test when their parents came to pick them up because they did not want them taking the test, because they objected to the way that it was worded to defeat the Bill of Rights, among other things. I don't like being threatened in no letter, especially when it comes to my child's education, Latricia said. The way jobs are going these days, you're not even allowed to take off an hour or two to go up to the school for a parent meeting. District officials denied approving the letters, but refused to denounce them, arguing that they were merely stressed the importance of the test. Neither the meeting nor the comments regarding the student's suspension were made out of ill intent, but rather to express the level of importance of students' progress as they prepare for the up-and-coming M-STEP test. Would that be the test that tells you that the Second Amendment is outdated? Or would that be the one that tells you that your rights are given to you by government and not God? The Smokes instead suggested that the school provide parents with options as opposed to blackmail. I believe in options, said Derek. Let's find a date when we can actually work for the parents, for the both of them, and for us, so that we both can be there. The newly implemented Common Core Michigan student test has already proved to be controversial, and that's been happening throughout the whole state. Several websites, such as the must-be-supported Stop Common Core Michigan, have begun offering opt-out forms that students can use to protest the Common Core curriculum, and it needs protested. Opting out and refusing the assessments is gaining momentum as the way to protect your child's privacy and to stop Common Core, the site says. Stop Common Core in Michigan has made 2 opt-out forms available to notify your child's school that you do not want your students participating in assessments. Similarly, on the national level, nearly 20 other states have either downgraded their participation or outright rejected the curriculum. That's because they have utterly destroyed mathematics, an already very difficult topic, unless, of course, you're an ancient Arab. Then you create algebra, and we're all envious. Friends, how stupid can we get? We have an out-of-control government, and I would hope that what you've heard during this entire show so far will make you subscribe and make you realize that this is really happening all around us. Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views. Sam I.B. DeGangi signing off. Make sure you go to themediaspeaks.com. I'm a proud member there. You will find articles always coming up by the talented crew there. Anthony Court, Kyle Phillips, David Lake, myself, videos, articles, everything. Mediaspeaks.com. And you can donate to the show if you want to at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Good night, friends. God bless. And remember, the more you hit share, the more helpful that is here.